Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me on the call today. I'm really excited about the formation of the Iowa Benefits Planning Community of Practice. My name is Paige Easton. I work at Iowa Workforce Development, and I am one of many partners that have worked to create the Community of Practice. Just in a little background information here, the Community of Practice was really created to help support professionals that are serving Iowans with disabilities by providing information and support about the topic of benefits planning, which is a complex topic that requires not only intensive training, but ongoing learning and practice. So we wanted to create a way for people working with individuals with disabilities in the area of employment to ask questions of each other, to learn from each other, to have a platform to share information and refresh ourselves on various topics, and just kind of come together once a month to focus on a different topic and learn more, dive deeper into it. I did put everybody on mute, but if you have questions at any time, you should be able to unmute yourself. Otherwise, you can type a question into the chat box. I wanted to just provide a little bit of information on benefits planning because everybody does have a different level of understanding and experience with the topic. In a nutshell, benefits planning helps people who receive a Social Security disability benefit understand how employment will impact their benefits. It helps people explore and utilize work incentives and develop a plan for transitioning to employment. Benefits planners typically explain how a person's benefits will be impacted when they go to work, and not just their disability check, but all of their benefits. They oftentimes will provide a written report that runs through some different scenarios based on the person's interest in employment or potential jobs. We help connect people with other community services that could be of help to them. Just answering different questions, usually questions related to what if they go to work, and then if they start working, if they change jobs, additional questions that might come up from that. If they get a raise, that kind of thing, just walking through different scenarios with them. And then also referring people to resolve any legal barriers related to employment, like if they need an accommodation, or even, if they were to get into an overpayment situation and need legal assistance that way. So when we talk about benefits planning, that's kind of the overview of what we are referring to. And why is benefits planning so critical? Well, we know that there are not enough benefits planners to serve all of the people who could benefit from this. There are, as of May 2019, there were 115,945 Iowans receiving Social Security disability cash benefits. This does not include people receiving a retirement benefit, just SSI or SSDI or concurrent beneficiaries. There are 44 employment networks participating in the Ticket to Work program in Iowa. Most of these have a benefits planner on staff, not always. There are 2 WIPA CWICs. CWICs are the Certified Work Incentive Coordinators under that grant, which isn't a whole lot when you're considering that there's 115,945 people on benefits. Less than half of 1% of those beneficiaries are working with either the vocational rehabilitation agency or an employment network. So we're really not able to currently serve everybody due to capacity issues. So if you look at it that way, there's over 100,000 people that could probably benefit from benefits planning services and just better, more accurate information about how work impacts those benefits. The important message that we want to convey is that people with disabilities can work. It's possible to work and keep Medicaid or Medicare in almost every case. It's possible to work and come out ahead financially, even if your check goes down. It's possible to receive disability benefits again if they're lost due to employment. And really, the benefits planning is not intended to force anybody off benefits. nor is it intended to help people maximize their benefits. We want to provide accurate information. We want to encourage people to work. We want to help people move out of poverty and become self-supporting. So we have developed a community of practice to help build capacity, to help create, support professionals doing benefits planning. And this is going to look like a couple different ways that we're going to do this. So one is going to be a monthly webinar on a different topic. And we have them planned out, so we know for the rest of this year kind of what we're going to be talking about each month, so people can pick and choose if they want to hop on that call and learn about it, or if you're not able to, we'll be recording these and you can access it later. We're also trying to create a platform, like I mentioned, for professionals who are providing benefits planning to share resources and information and ask questions. We know that there's a lot of complex cases, and especially if you're starting off, questions come up and you need to just maybe run something by somebody. And so we're creating the community of practice to help with that as well. Again, it's available for all professionals. I work at IWD, but it's not an IWD specific thing. It's not a state agency specific thing. It's really for anybody in Iowa, or really, I guess they could be outside of Iowa, who's providing the service that wants to join and get information, connect with others. It's not mandatory. You can kind of pick and choose what you want to access from the group. So I mentioned the monthly webinars. They're going to be an hour to 90 minutes in length, and they're going to be focused on a specific benefits planning topic. They're free. We ask that you register so we can share the Zoom link with you and just kind of get an idea of how many people are on. But it's just up to you whether or not you participate. If you're not able to join, they're going to be recorded and archived, and I'll show you in a little bit where those are going to be housed, where you can access them after the call. The other part of it is that there is an email group. If you've heard of a listserv or a Google group, is functioning in a very similar way. And the email address is iabenefitsplanning@iwd.iowa.gov. It does have an IWD web domain because of where it was created, but again, anybody can send an email to that and it will go to the whole group. And it's a cleaner way of sending group emails rather than getting those really long strings of emails in your inbox that can kind of be confusing and you might miss some of the responses. It's just a more streamlined way of connecting with others. So if you have a question about a scenario or a person you're serving and you want to throw it out to the group, you can send an email just to that, and all of the members of the group will receive that question in their email inbox. You don't have to log into anything. Some folks have joined the group and then they're trying to log in and it says you have to have an IWD email address, and it really is just an email function. It's not, there's nothing to log into. You don't need to do anything else except accept the invitation, and then you'll receive all of the group correspondence to your email inbox. So the monthly webinars for the rest of 2019 have been outlined here, and you can see this month we're just kind of doing a kickoff to talk about what is the community of practice, and then we're going to look at a new website tool that was created. Next month in August, Brian Dennis is going to talk about wage reporting and managing overpayments. In September, Susie Paulson with Voc Rehab is going to talk about IRWEs, or impairment-related work expenses. In October, we have someone from the State of Iowa Treasurer's Office talking about ABLE accounts. And then in November, Misty Johnson, one of those WIPA CWICs that we mentioned earlier with Disability Rights Iowa, is going to talk about accessing WIPA, available resources that she uses, since she does this all day, every day. And then she's going to go over the 2020 numbers. Those typically come from Social Security in October, and she's going to review all of the annual changes during that November call. In December, we have Melissa Bowens from DHS talking about MEPD. And then in 2019, we'll be picking different topics. that we'll be focusing on each month, and we'll get those posted so that you have an idea of which ones you might want to participate in. And again, they're recorded. I'll show you where you can access them. If you miss them, it's no big deal. But we do ask that you register by emailing me so that you can get that Zoom link in your calendar so that you can access the webinar that way. The other thing that we did was we created a group. A group came together to create a benefits planning website, and this was a group of state agency and community partners that came together to develop content that was accurate and up to date, that was easy to understand, that kind of pulled everything that's helpful to somebody who's doing benefits planning all in one place. And so it's not just for professionals, though. It's really geared for 3 different audiences: one for people with disabilities, whether they're adults or youth, families of individuals with disabilities, and professionals. And I'll give you a tour of that website that just launched last week. Bear with me one second while I pull it up here. Okay. Should be able to see the home page of the disabilitybenefits.iowa.gov webpage here. At the top of every page, there is a little banner here that asks if you need assistance with benefits, and it directs people to the Ticket to Work helpline and also to the Social Security website. At the bottom, there are ways that they can contact individuals in Iowa to get assistance. So you can see with the different audiences here, we've got a tab for individuals with disabilities and their families, a tab specifically for youth with disabilities, a tab for individuals who are looking for employment, and then a tab for professionals. So I'm just going to kind of run through each of these with you. You can see from the drop-down everything that is contained here. I guess I'll start with the main page of the website. These are some videos that Griffin Hammis Associates created that are specific to Iowa, and they give a nice, easy to understand overview of the benefits and how work impacts them. So there's one on just kind of understanding what is SSDI, one that's on understanding what is SSI, and these contain the dollar amount specific to 2019, so they're up to date. And then the other videos are SSDI and planning for work, SSI and youth who work, SSDI work incentives, and SSI and work. And then this little one in the corner here that says Meet Ben, an introduction to Ticket to Work. That's from the Social Security Ticket to Work website, and it just gives a nice little overview of that program. But these videos are really helpful when you're introducing the concept of benefits planning to someone who maybe doesn't even understand what their own benefit is. We get a lot of people who aren't sure which benefit they get, if they get one or both. And so these can kind of give a nice short tutorial. Most of them are under 5 minutes long. So you can easily work it into conversation with somebody that you're working with, or send it to them ahead of time, or direct them here and they can access these on their own. We also have links to a variety of success stories, which I think are really important so that other individuals can see folks with disabilities exploring work and succeeding in employment and moving off benefits, and learn from it that way. We go to the Individuals with Disabilities tab. If any of the drop downs you click on, it will take you to that page with the same left side navigation here. These top 2 videos are ones that are featured on the home page, but they provide a nice general overview, so we link to them twice. This content really just talks about the differences in benefits and tried to keep it really simple. And then Brian Dennis created the content on this page that's an overview. And this is one that's really helpful if people are confused about the type of benefit that they receive. You can usually say, when do you receive your check? How much is your check? How many checks do you get? Trying to figure out if they get SSI or SSDI or if they're a concurrent beneficiary. And then it just gives a little overview of some of the differences in the two benefits. We have a benefits calculator, and this was shared by Susie Paulson. Thank you so much, Susie, for sharing this. It helps individuals understand when they're receiving supplemental security income, how their check is going to be impacted, because we know that there's a bit of math that has to be done when you're figuring out how your SSI check will be reduced. Individuals can plug in those numbers here. And then we have the same thing, which Susie also shared, a PATH calculator. So if someone has a plan for achieving self-support or a PATH, they can plug in those numbers and use this tool as well. Other content that is really geared for people with disabilities and their families is talking about the importance of wage reporting and really trying to help them understand that when they start or stop work, or things change, especially if they're on SSI, they need to contact Social Security to report those things. If they have a change in status, and then it gives links to the how to contact their local office. Instructions for wage reporting. This is kind of a step-by-step that somebody could follow if they have never reported wages, they're new to benefits, and or if you're a professional and you're just trying to help somebody get started with that. There's information on preventing and managing overpayments, which is a huge part of benefits planning. Most people get in a situation at some point where they have forgotten to report wages, or they've done it after the fact, and they have received a check that they shouldn't have gotten and possibly spent that check, and now they're working on paying it back. And so this contains information about also wage reporting, but also just making sure that, or preventing as much as possible an overpayment situation. There's some resources here, which we've kind of created a table just to help folks look at the different threshold amounts. So when you're looking at previous years that they were employed, we went back to 2010. These numbers are available in, going all the way back to the 90s, but just for kind of more simplified purposes, we wanted to put them all in the same spot so you can find them. We've got the trial work periods for each year listed, SGA for individuals who are not blind, and SGA for those who are. And then there's two links. One is the same chart, but in a Word document that you could print and possibly have at your desk, or send home with someone. And then the Medicare overview. We know Medicare is really complex. We're planning on having a webinar on that because it is a lot to remember as a benefits planner, and it's a lot to absorb if you're a consumer. So there's some information on Medicare there. And then the Social Security field offices, the contact information for each of those offices is on here. It's also available just on their website, but it didn't have the fax numbers. So now we kind of have all of the information, the address, the phone number, the fax number, and the hours all in one place. So this should be a helpful tool as well. Okay, that linked me over there. Where am I on here? Okay, we talked about reporting wages. We've got some information on work incentives. This is going to be further developed. It's a lot of reading, it's a lot of content. We wanted to get it up so that people could start accessing it, but we are working on developing like some simplified version of this so that it's not so much reading. And we're working with a web developer to continue with that, but we didn't want to hold off on getting the site up. We also have some frequently asked questions about impairment-related work expenses, and information on Ticket to Work, how to create an ABLE account, and creating a MySSA account. And then we've got an Employment First guide for parents. This is a link to a PDF that was created that really just helps provide accurate information about employment, because we know there are there's a lot of misinformation out there, and fears that are based on things that may not always be accurate. We want to provide good information for folks so that they can make decisions about working. Another PDF that is about the shift from sheltered work to competitive integrated employment here. And so those are kind of the resources for individuals with disabilities and their families. The youth-specific resources contain a checklist for transitioning youth and some things to do when you're 5 years out, before you're leaving the school district, when you're 2 to 3 years out. It kind of gives them a nice timeline so that they're not graduating or leaving the school system and having no idea what to expect. It gives them a bit of a timeline, talks about age 18 redetermination, what's going to happen with that. And then there's also a work incentive specific for youth, kind of similar to the last page, but worded and formatted slightly different. For individuals that are looking for work and they stumble upon this website and they're not really sure where to start, we've got information about Iowa Compass, which, as you probably know, working in the field, is a great resource. It helps people connect with all sorts of resources, not just related to employment, but a lot of things as far as assistive technology and accommodations. It can be really helpful. And then the Job Accommodation Network. So if they do need an accommodation, they can look it up by their limitation, by their job function. There's tons of training and information on that website. So it helps get them in connection with those resources. And then some of the typical agencies where people might access employment supports: the Department for the Blind for individuals who are blind or have low vision, Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation Services, Iowa Works. And I think on this one, there is a link to Future Ready Iowa as well. And then information on the Mental Health and Disability Services regions, and then CSEP, which is a program for individuals 55 and older. So we know that there are a lot of programs out there. We wanted to highlight a few general ones that have kind of broad, that folks could get connected with. And then through these programs, the hope is that they'll get connected with more specific providers like a CRP in an area where they live. For the professionals, we have several resources here. Under the Forms tab, we've got information about PATH, information about overpayment, request for reconsideration if somebody's on SSI and gets in an overpayment situation, and also for a waiver for overpayment. We've got the BPQI release of information, and then a link to a bunch of Social Security forms. The Great Debate I mentioned earlier is the same publication. It's just linked in 2 different places, since it's also helpful for professionals. But the Employment First guide is different. The other one that I showed just a minute ago is for families and individuals with disabilities. This one is for professionals, so the content is different. This one's a lot longer. There's information on, what is a benefits planning query, or BPQI? What does it tell us? how can I get one? What do I need to do with it? That kind of information. The same information on preventing and managing overpayment. The same information as far as the threshold amounts and the Medicare information. Same contact information for those Social Security field offices. And then this tab here is where you'll be able to find those recorded, like this call, it's being recorded. I'm gonna make sure that it has closed captions, and then I'm gonna post it to this website for the folks that weren't able to join us today. And then you'll also see other recorded webinars being placed on this page as well. There's one that I think is about an hour long that provides an overview of kind of an introduction to benefits planning. So it provides an overview of SSI and SSDI that Brian Dennis did. It's excellent. So I'm going to make sure that that gets up here for folks who are newer to the field and just trying to wrap their heads around all of the benefits information. So that's kind of the site in a nutshell. I would encourage you just to kind of play around with it. And if you have, if you see typos that I've missed or things that need to be corrected, please reach out, send it to me, and I'll make sure that it gets updated. And if there are things that you are looking for that would be helpful for you in doing your day-to-day job that you would like to see developed, or just things that you're like, I wish I had this, but I don't have time to create it, send those. I'm not promising everything, but I think that there is some opportunity for us to develop further materials to the website, and I really want to take feedback into consideration when we're doing that. So now I just kind of want to open it up to the group. Looks like we have about 33 people on the call. If you want to unmute yourself, if you have either feedback on the site or the community of practice, things that you would like to see come from it, feel free to share those. Or if you have questions, I think we have a little bit of time where we can take questions about different benefits planning topics. Not saying I'll be able to answer all of them, but I see Susie's on, so I feel pretty confident in opening it up for questions. So go ahead and unmute yourself or chat into the chat box and let me know your thoughts.
Hi, this is Jamie from the Ottumwa Voc Rehab office. I think this website looks great, and it's going to be really helpful for me personally as I'm doing benefits planning, but I think our families and our job candidates are going to get a lot of benefit out of this. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Jamie. Appreciate it. There was a question about if you registered for this webinar, do you have to continue to sign up each time? And the way it is currently, I was thinking folks would sign up each time, but I can really throw it out to the group, and I could just add everybody to the webinar each month who are, everybody who's joined our benefits planning group that we developed. I could add everybody each month, and then you can decide whether or not to participate. Would that be more convenient, or do you want to just pick and choose which topics land on your calendar? So Lewis thinks that we should add, that maybe I could add everybody who's in the benefits planning group to send the calendar invitation basically for each month, and then you can either accept that invitation to participate or decline it, either way. I'll go ahead and get those. Oh, everyone's saying so. Okay, I'll go ahead and get those on the calendar for you. I do have the dates and the topics all lined up, so I'll send them to everybody who's on the group. And then if you know of other people who want to join that group to get the emails, or if they don't want to get all the emails, but they just want to be participating in these community of practice calls each month, just have them reach out to me. I'm happy to add people to the email group or just the calendar invitations, whatever's going to be easiest for folks in the field. I want to do what's easiest. So I'll go ahead and get you guys all added to that. And we haven't had a lot of emails from the group. So if you're like, what emails is she talking about? Really, it's just been me announcing the webinar and the benefits site. So feel free to start using that. I think that's what it's there for. If you have a question, someone else is probably having the same question in their head and they just scared to ask. So we know that everybody in this group is somewhere different on the spectrum of like becoming really confident in doing benefits planning. Some people literally have not even had any training. Some people have gone through like VCU or Cornell training, but maybe haven't had a lot of time or experience practicing it hands-on, and then other people have been doing it for years. So don't fear that you are, inadequate or asking silly questions at all. I think any question somebody else is probably thinking the same thing. And also don't think that I'm going to know the answers to any or all of the questions, because that's not going to be the case either. It's really for everybody who knows what they're talking about to chime in. Okay, so we had someone say that for some that are newer to this, Michael Walling will be doing a benefits and employment training in August. And I think Heather is going to send that email to the group. It might be a good refresher for folks. Sally's asking, is that a good training? I'm not familiar with that, but I think any opportunity for training would be helpful to somebody in our group. So if you want to send that information about how people can participate in that August training to the email address that will go to everybody in the group. Thank you for sharing that. Well, that's really all I had for today. I'll hang out on the line if anybody has other questions or wants to chat things in the box, but otherwise feel free to hop off the call. And I will be sending you a calendar invitation, and hopefully you can join us next month with Brian Dennis talking about wage reporting and managing overpayments.